Hey guys, so I'm running through an optimization using intraday data on the Fibonacci levels. But if you see here in the output, it's testing a couple of things. So we're trying to optimize our profit target, our stop loss, the look back period, and the actual fib ratios to use. So it looks like we just got a new iteration. But if we take a look at this on the app, we're going to use the profit target of 1.4%. The stop loss of 0.1, the look back period of 271. We're not using the shares for optimization, but for the fib ratios, it's just telling us to use these two. So we got a 11000, which means just to use the first two. And if we scroll down here in the app, we see for the most part it's green, meaning it's positive. And for the latest, we're getting a trade return of 33.6% and a cumulative profit of $130 off of just one share. So I have the optimization running, and we're only focused on a 3-month window. And after the optimization is running, I'm going to take a look at what the profit is at a sample. But I'm going to be showing you guys how to set this up. So here in the optimization, we're going to require these packages. Now to get the intraday data, we're going to load up the 1-minute data from my database. We're only going to be focusing on the actual trading session. And since I download this intraday data in bulk on a weekly basis, I am missing a full week. And we're going to use the Trader API to download the rest. We're going to combine both, so this will get us all the latest bars, and I'm going to add that to the historical. And again, we're just going to take a look at the 3-month window. And now to calculate the fib levels, we're going to pass in the high and the low to create a range and calculate what those fib levels are. So if we open up this function here, so nothing new here if you've seen the previous videos. All that we were changing in the script is to use the intraday data instead of the daily data. And this backtest fib, for the most part, stayed unchanged. So we're just going to pass in the open, high, low, close data for stock. And the rest of these parameters stayed unchanged. And some of these we're going to be optimizing for. So if we open this up, it's just going to return empty if any of these things fail. Otherwise, if we have some data to work with, we're going to calculate the rolling high and the rolling low using our high column and our low column, using the look back period for the width. Now it does have to pass some tests, and we're going to subset to make sure that everything is in alignment. So we're going to use the rolling high series as reference of when our stock data, so the open, high, low, close, has to start. Once everything's in alignment, we're going to create a list to keep track of our trades. And since this is a long only strategy, whenever the low reaches a certain fib level, depending on the ones that you pass in, it's going to enter a trade. Once it's in the trade, it's going to track of when to exit, and that exit will be either the take profit or stop loss zone. So nothing changed here. We're just going to use a for loop, and it's going to be using our open, high, low, close data to keep track of our trades. Now for the last row, if we're currently in a trade, it's just going to use the last observation or the last close as an exit. And then finally just return the trade results, which is the total trades data frame. I go over this in detail in my previous tutorials, but for this one, we just want to focus on the actual optimization. So here we're just going to assign our symbol. We're going to get the data, and for the optimization, we need to create an optimization function. For the actual backtest, we're going to use all of the fib ratios, but we're going to create a binary event. So we're going to multiply these by either 1 or a 0. So we're going to exclude all the fib ratios that are 0. And if the length of all fib levels is greater than 0, we're going to use our backtest function, pass in all of our stock data, which contains the open, high, low, close. The optimization is going to pick what the profit target is, the stop loss level, the look back period, and we're going to pass in the fib level series. And we're going to extract the percentage return from our res table to create an XDS object. And for the value that we're optimizing for, we're just going to divide the average return by the max drawdown multiplied by the number of trades or the number of rows. Otherwise, just return 100 if there's an error or if the fib level ratios are 0 in length. We also need to set our lower and upper ranges for the optimization values. So for example, for our profit target, which is N1, that can range from 0.10% all the way to 2% and so on. We also need to set our rounding function for all the optimization values that we pass in. So for example, for the first one, I just want to round by 0.05. And of course, for the binary outcomes for our fib ratios, these should be rounded to 0 decimal places. So either a 0 or a 1. Next, we're going to use the optim, pass in our optimization function, our lower and upper levels. For the control list, we're just going to set our iterations up to 100. And of course, we need to pass in our formatting or rounding function. And then at each iteration, you'll see a printout that looks similar to this. So you'll get the actual value, which represents this value here in line 180, and the parameters it used, which are in sequence. So the very first one pertains to our profit target and so on. But that's basically it, guys. I'll leave a link down in the description area to my Patreon where I'm going to add these scripts. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.